The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Celebrity sex, whopping depression, and a Neverland escape that's got to be reminiscent, folks, straight out of Indiana Jones. More bizarre and strange stories from who else? The accuser's mother. Hello, I'm James Curtis, and welcome to E's coverage of the Michael Jackson trial. Outside the Santa Maria courthouse, the King of Pop adjusted his mother's jacket and waved to his cheering and adoring fans. Inside, however, business as usual. Defense attorney Tom Mesro jumped right into questioning Janet, who is Gavin's mom. Gavin, of course, is the current accuser. During the testimony, you're going to hear the name David. David is Janet's former husband, the father of Gavin. Here's what the jurors heard according to the courtroom transcripts.
Did the prosecutor show you another police report where you reported David for domestic violence and told the police that Michael Jackson, Kobe Bryant, and Fritz Coleman are going to help you?
That's because David was calling me whore, and David said that he was going to tell everybody that I had sex with them. And so if they wanted to do that, they can go verify with them that I'm not having sex with any of those people.
That wasn't in your police interview, was it?
I did speak to the detective about it.
So when you told the detective, Michael Jackson, Kobe Bryant, and Fritz Coleman are going to help me in my action against David, that's what you were referring to?
Not action against David. That they can go ask basically themselves, that I'm not having sex with them.
Okay. But you've seen the report, and nowhere in the report does it ever say that you told the police officers that there are accusations that I'm having sex with these celebrities, correct?
Well, I don't think that's considered a crime.
So when the police officer just mentions that quote, in your mind, you should have also said, I told him the reason for the quote was that there were false accusations about me having sex with these celebrities, correct?
I'll object. That question is ambiguous.
Sustained.
Next, a rather sad admission by the accuser's mother.
In your deposition in the J.C. Penney case, and I'm referring to December 18th, 2000, you indicated that you had filed a state disability claim because you were depressed. Remember that?
Yes.
You were asked what caused the depression. You said it was not your marriage. I was just sad about being a nobody. Do you remember that?
I'm still a nobody.
Would you just answer the question, isn't that what you said?
If it's on there, that's correct.
Would it refresh your recollection if I just show you that?
There was many things why I was sad. Most of all, the man I was married that didn't love me or my kids.
Move to strike.
Strike that answer. I'm not quite sure what the question is at this point, however.
I'll rephrase. I can restate it, Your Honor. You testified under oath, Miss, that you filed a state disability claim because you were depressed. And when asked why you were depressed, you said, I was just sad about being a nobody, right?
Objection, compound.
Sustained.
Do you remember being questioned about why you had filed a state disability claim?
No, I don't. But what he's talking
I'll
about...
object as non-responsive.
Sustained.
All right, folks, I think this is day 4 for this woman on the stand. Sean, let me start out with you. One of the observations that I take away from this is I'm not sure how this testimony is cutting the longer she stays on the stand. Initially, I thought the longer on the stand, the better for the defense, but I'm not quite sure right now.
I think it's better for the defense. This woman is obviously manipulative. She's obviously loopy. And the longer she stays on the stand, the more we see that. And it's not as if she's somebody who could have started out appearing to be normal and only after you get to her do you see the real her. No, she's what she is from the start. And as we've said before, not only does she lack credibility, as we'll see, but also she had to have had a tremendous influence on these children. It's very sad.
I want to echo that because I really had an enormous change of heart last night. I went in, I'm serious. I mean, it was like a crisis of conscience. I went in, I read the transcript, and as I'm reading the transcript, I went, oh my goodness, we have to really consider the possibility that he is completely, utterly innocent of this crime by virtue of reading the transcript of this mother. It's not only that she's crazy, it's exactly what Sean said. She's so manipulative in a way that nothing about the law stands in her way to get what she wants, that she could have had enough influence over these kids. And it is the first time where I really understood the presumption of innocence in this case.
Howard, real quick.
I don't agree with either Ricky or Sean.
Oh, boy.
I think this lady's been on the stand much too long. I think it's come back around. Yes, she is who she is. This testimony today, beating her up, she was sad, she was depressed, she was a nobody. We're off the mark. Either Michael did or did not molest this kid and other kids, and it gets back to what I said yesterday. Focus on your case, prosecution. Taking showers with kids that aren't your own, bad situation. Sleeping, with other kids that aren't your own, in your own bed, bad situation. And that is what this case is about, and that's where they should be focusing on.
But let's not forget, although the child molestation counts are the main focal point of this trial, there is that very first count, which embodies the false imprisonment and other issues that this woman has to testify about. As testimony continues by the accuser's mother, the question is, who tucked in the kids at night at Neverland?
So, as far as you know, the first night you were there, your sons were staying somewhere in the main house, but you didn't know where, right?
This is correct.
And you assumed that David knew where. Is that correct?
I assume that children stay with children. That's what I assumed.
Did you see your sons the next day?
Yes.
Did you ask them where they had stayed that evening?
No, I didn't. They had told me that they had played, and that was good.
Did you then stay at Neverland a second night?
I think so, yes. Yes.
And was it your belief that your sons stayed in the main house that night?
Yes, they did.
Did you see them the next morning?
Yes.
Did you ask them where they had spent the evening?
No, I didn't. Now I know a lot of things. Now I know.
Objection. Non-responsive.
Sustained.
Next, who controlled the purse strings?
Now, when the $10,000 check that Louise Palanker wrote to you was placed into your mother's account, you say that it was basically cash was taken out immediately. Is that correct?
The best I can remember, I think there had to be a waiting period or something like that, and then it could be cashed.
And you endorsed the check, right?
Yes, I think so.
And did you get some of the money?
No. Everything was handed to David. David loved having the sense of authority. I was like his personal secretary.
So you're saying none of that money went to your benefit, right?
It was, like I said, David had the authority. I was like David's personal secretary.
Okay, so you're telling the jury that you never spent any of that money for yourself, correct?
I'm telling the jury I was like David's personal secretary.
Did any of that money go to the benefit of Gavin, to your knowledge?
I think so.
Do you know so?
I think so.
You're not sure?
No, I think so.
Okay, what do you think it went to?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Overruled. You may answer.
I think it went to credit cards, to food, to just different things, whatever David would instruct me to do.
Howard, let me start with you, picking up on a point that Ricky just made. The idea that Michael Jackson could be totally innocent because of the loopiness, for lack of a better term, of this woman. Doesn't the defense still have to tie together the conjuring up of these allegations with the mom and the son in order to make her loopiness work for them?
They've tried to do that, and I actually think they're not being as successful as I thought they might have been 2 or 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm a big believer in the presumption of innocence. I've said I would choose to believe Michael Jackson didn't commit the crimes he's been charged with, but when you look at the evidence and you read between the lines, just like we saw in this select, the lady didn't know where the kids were.
Yeah.
She didn't know, that the children were sleeping with Michael, she said. It's believable once you listen to her.
Absolutely, because she's kind of out there. But Sean Chapman Holly, the same applies in terms of connecting the proverbial dots for the prosecution. They have to connect the conduct of these Michael Jackson associates, most of whom that we've heard about are unindicted co-conspirators, whatever the heck that really means, with Michael Jackson himself. And they haven't done that either.
They haven't done that. We haven't seen that at all. We hear a lot of testimony about these other people and things that they've done, but we really haven't seen that much testimony about Michael having done these things himself. I don't think the prosecution is doing a very good job. I don't know if you disagree, Howard, since you've now turned to the other side.
All right, we're going to hear from the rest of this.
Fighting
When we come
words.
back, we've got a little controversy right here in River City. When we return, a puzzle within a paradox wrapped inside an enigma, or Janet's trail of clues. Take your pick. We'll be right back.
The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. Now, why did the accuser's mother, Janet, allow her children to stay at Neverland after they returned from that now infamous trip to Miami? Well, I'm not sure whether the mom's testimony really helps clear that up, but here's what she told the jurors, according to the courtroom transcripts.
If you can recall, how many times did you let your children go back to Neverland after you claim you saw your son's head being licked?
The whole entire time until March.
And how many times would that be, back and forth?
The best. I can't remember, but we've already walked through that.
Do you think it was 4 times you let your children go back to Neverland?
They were there the whole entire time, except for that time that Jesus had taken us out. Poor judgment on my part.
Move to strike.
I know now.
Just a moment. Strike the last sentence. Go ahead.
Would it be safe to say you're not sure how many times your kids returned to Neverland after the head-licking incident?
The only time my children were out of their grasp was when Jesus had taken me and my children to my mom's house. But the rest of the time, they were, even if they were outside, Michael's people were still on my children. So if you want to get very specific, my children only made it out of there once because all the other entire time, Michael's people were on them.
Intense, if nothing else. As cross-examination continues, defense attorney Tom Mesereau has a very simple question. Aren't there 3 little numbers that you can dial when you're in trouble? Now, during this cross-examination, you're going to hear the term or the name Wheezy. That refers to Louise Palanker. You'll recall that she's an earlier prosecution witness, a comedian who helped the accuser's family when Gavin was ill.
Do you remember going shopping while you were staying at the Calabasas Inn?
Yes.
And tell the jury where you went shopping.
I think it was an outlet store and also a Robinson's May. And this is what, with their positive PR film crew following us.
Objection. Non-responsive.
Sustained as to the last sentence.
While you were shopping, you didn't ever complain to anyone you were being held against your will, true?
Incorrect. I called Wheezy.
Did you call the police?
No.
If you could call Wheezy, why couldn't you call the police?
Because I couldn't. I was hoping she would.
Which phone did you use to call Wheezy?
I don't remember.
Was it a cell phone?
I had no cell phone at the time.
Was it a phone in the hotel?
I don't think so.
Was it a phone at the shopping center?
I don't remember.
You didn't dial 911, did you?
That's correct. But I have now.
After meeting with 2 attorneys, correct?
He's incorrect.
Ricky Kleeman, I desperately want to explore this change of heart that you had, but before we get to that, this woman constantly, consistently, if nothing else, faces the jurors when she answers her questions.
She has no respect for what goes on in a court of law, which is why I said a couple of days ago, no matter what you teach, anywhere you teach it, there is no way to teach cross-examining her. She talks to the jurors when she feels like it. She talks right to Michael Jackson when she feels like it.
Right.
She tells Mr. Mesereau that she's not going to answer his question. It doesn't matter. And when she talks to the jurors, it's as if she's their buddy.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think jurors want witnesses to be their buddy.
Well, you know, I think that, hold that thought, Sean, we're going to explore this a little bit further as we get down the road. And Ricky having a change of heart, folks, I just can't tell you that.
Don't worry, I can still argue the prosecution side, don't worry.
Sure you can.
I can.
Next, a string of clues that makes the Da Vinci Code look rather simple. Now, a programming note, you'll hear the names Asif, Vinnie Amin, and Frank Tyson. They were all associates of Michael Jackson. Amin and Tyson are currently the so-called unindicted co-conspirators, according to the prosecution.
Now, you make some references in some of your sheriff's interviews to speaking in code. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And what code were you speaking in?
This is what I've already explained to the jurors, is that in the midst of my conversations, I try to slip something in. Or I would say one word, say another sentence, and say another word, hoping that when a person would sit or think, they'd say, wait a minute, that word doesn't match this. I was constantly trying to leave clues for people.
Did you leave any clues for Major J. when you stayed at his home?
Yes, I tried. Yes. When I finally left the nail shop, that's when I finally told him everything, because Asif had pointed out that there was another tape recording being, and Frank and Vinny told me they can hear everything. And I believed them. So I believed them.
So you believed J. phones were being tapped?
Yes.
Did you believe the phones at the salon were being tapped?
When I was finally able, I told him, come on over. And then that was it. Permanently left Neverland forever. Thank God.
Did you believe the phones at the salon were being tapped?
No. That's why I didn't know what they could do, because they said I was being constantly listened and monitored, so I went ahead and tried.
As testimony continues, Gavin's mom wants everyone to see the real man in the mirror. No, just the man behind the mask of a superstar.
Do you remember complaining to the sheriffs in an interview about Michael Jackson? Here's a man that has so much wealth and yet did not even hire my children a single tutor when they're supposed to be in school. Do you remember complaining about that?
I didn't complain to him. I was trying to point out to the police that these were the things that now I'm aware of, that he didn't really care about the children. He just cared about what he was doing with the children.
Do you remember saying that to the sheriffs?
Like I said, I gave him information, everything possible that I could possibly do to let them know that the children, all this time had passed and they were not educated.
Now, how much time are we talking about where you think Michael Jackson should have hired a tutor for your kids?
No, I don't think he should have hired a tutor. I think he should just have let me and my kids go.
When you said to the sheriffs, here's a man who has so much wealth and yet did not even hire my children a single tutor when they're supposed to be in school, what were you referring to?
That he's managed to fool the world. And I was the one woman inside there. That's what I was communicating. That what he puts out in the world is not who he really is. Now, because of these criminal case proceedings, now people know who he really is.
Move to strike.
Denied.
All right, Sean Chapman Holly, I want to let you finish your thought.
Thank you.
Well, go ahead, do that first.
Just following up on what Ricky was saying, with regard to this witness, the form is really just as important as the substance.
What do you mean?
What she says is almost not important. It's so wacky. It's all over the place. But the form, her talking to the jury, all of that, it shows she has an agenda. She's not going to answer the question. She's going to answer her own question, say what she wants to say. And also, it demonstrates the type of person she is and therefore the type of parent that she was. It really doesn't matter what she says. It's how she says it. It's who she is. It's what she's trying to do.
Sean, you're sneaking a peek at my notes again. Is that, Howard, a correct assessment? Is she a woman who has a story and sticking to it, or, as you observed just a moment ago during the break, loopy enough to actually be credible?
Both. Both. By the way, when you ask an open-ended question of a witness and you get the answer that she just gave to the last question about Michael, and now the world will see who he really is because of this trial, wrong question to ask of a witness like this. She is out of control. I think she has an air of credibility, and I can't say I thought that last Monday.
Interesting. And will the jurors come away with that very same impression? It's going to be tough. Remember, folks, she took the fifth when she started out her testimony. When we return, a flight from Neverland, a flight from fancy, a fancy, or both. Stay with us.
The reenactments and commentary in this program may contain frank talk of a sexual nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back. Are we about to hear another bizarre twist in this long, winding tale, or is this witness just blowing hot air? You'll see what I mean in just a moment, folks, as the accuser's mother, Janet, responds to yet more intense questioning from defense attorney Tom Mesro. Here's how it happened, according to the courtroom transcripts.
Now, you told the sheriffs at one point you thought your family might disappear in a hot air balloon from Neverland, correct?
He's taking it out of context. I had informed the police that Frank and Vinny had expressed to me that they had many ways to, and also Ronald and Dieter, remember? And Ronald and Dieter were replaced by Frank and Vinny, and that they had many various ways to make my children disappear, and I was expressing it, but he's minimizing it.
Did you tell the sheriffs that you thought your family might disappear in a hot air balloon from Neverland?
Again, he's minimizing it. I told him what I told the police, what Ronald and Dieter, Frank and Vinny had said, that they had various ways to make transporting my children and making them disappear. And what was most terrifying is when it was towards the end, now they had the passport plus visa.
Did you ever mention a disappearance in a hot air balloon? Yes or no?
I made them aware that they had a variety of ways of getting my children out, and that was one of them. This isn't me. This is what your Frank and Vinny said, plus your Ronald and Dieter. So I'm just communicating to the police what I was told.
And some of them, somebody mentioned to you disappearance in a hot air balloon, right?
This is one of a variety of ways.
Well, when you got out of Neverland at that point, you knew you were not going to be involved with Mr. Jackson ever again, correct?
He gave my son alcohol, please.
Did you know that?
He gave my son alcohol. That was enough for me. But as time progressed, I found out more and more and more, so no way.
Well,
no way.
As time went on, the story just kept getting bigger and bigger, didn't it?
Objection. Argumentative. Asked and answered.
It's argumentative. Sustained.
All right, before we get to our final thoughts, Ricky, who won that round? Is Mesro losing control? Is this woman scoring points?
I think that clearly Mesro wins the round by default, not necessarily because of what he did. I mean, fly away in a hot air balloon. You think you're getting to Brazil in a hot air balloon?
Well, you never know.
It is so preposterous. I vote for this as clip of the week, and it's only Tuesday.
All right, let's get to the final
I
thoughts.
do not agree. Let me just say this. He gave my son alcohol. He gave my son alcohol. I think she won the round.
Okay, all right. Final thoughts, Sean, let's start
I
with you.
can't believe what's happened to my Howard. I can't have a final thought.
Where did
because
our
I'm
little
just-
Howard go?
I don't know what to do.
I'm just trying to be objective.
morphed. We just kinda-
trying to be
we just-
objective.
that's what
Let's get to a
happened.
little summary real quick here. Sean Chapman, Holly, who's ahead at this point?
I think clearly the defense is ahead at this point. This woman is a critical witness in this case. She had a tremendous influence over her children. Her children are the ones making these accusations. She's used them for lies in the past.
All right,
With
Howard.
regard to the J.C. case, what more do you need, Howard?
Howard? Who's
You
ahead
know,
right now?
I think the only three numbers she dials are 411 to locate stores so she can go shopping.
Oh, and don't forget the weenie wax. Ricky, who's winning?
I say that the prosecution comes ahead again by doing corroboration. That is, the phone calls that were taped, surveillance videos, photos of her bruises. That's the way that they come back.
Welcome back.
Oh, watch out, she's here. All right, that's going to have to do it for us for today. Be sure to watch our exclusive coverage of the Michael Jackson trial, weeknight, 7:30 p.m. You all know that new time. Everybody's real used to it. Tomorrow, is it damage control time on redirect examination of Janet, the accuser's mom? You'll have to tune in again.